being kicked out of AC/DC then is not like being kicked out of AC/DC now.
No.
Like, if you're kicked out of AC/DC now, it's like, oh my God, what's happened? It's kicked out of the Beatles, you know. But, it was, while it was certainly not a surprise, not a complete, it was a shock. I was incredibly disappointed.
It came completely out of the blue.
Well, there was, for a couple of months before, there was some tensions. It was different. It was, I had a few clashes with Angus and stuff, but I'm not Robinson Crusoe there. Angus is a very intense fellow, and so I wasn't the only guy that had clashes with Angus. I think everyone had a crack somewhere along the line, but that's just the way it is, because Angus expects 150% from everyone, which is his right. So that can create tension. But yeah, it was a shock. It was just like getting kicked out of the gang. I had a couple of, an inkling or two from the road crew that things weren't right, and a couple of whispers and stuff. So I was hoping that things wouldn't go that way. But when the axe fell, was just. That's how it went, It was a meeting we had with the guys, and yeah, it was really, really disappointing. But at the same time, an odd thing happened. Immediately after the meeting, I went back to Michael Browning's place. And said, so we're going to tie a few things up business-wise. And I was in the cab going back to Michael's place, and I was thinking, man, how can I was saying to Michael, man. Is there any way I can get off the hook here? I don't want to be in the band. I don't want to leave. And Michael just said to me, well, do you really want to continue on? And I thought about it and went, no, Because at that point, this whole rush went over, and it was a massive sense of relief. It was just like, wow. Because it was a pressure cooker thing. And at the end of the day, I think, to me, in hindsight, I wasn't cut out to be in that band, because there's some hard dudes in that band, and I can be a bit of a hard ass myself, but like I said, if I was the right guy for the band, I'd still be there. Patently, I wasn't the right guy, and I think Malcolm and Angus identified that, and once again, they were right, man. Hey, maybe if I had stayed in the band, it would have, who knows? It could have been the same. I don't know. But I look back in that time now and thinking, well, that's what happened, and that's the cards I got, man. I look back at my time with the band, and I got great memories of it. I love the music we made, and we had a great time. We really had a good time, and I really admire and respect what the guys have gone on and done. Man, they deserve to pick up all the marbles for the amount of work they've done, man. They're good band, man.
Yeah, sure. When you came back, you've just been busy ever since.
Pretty much.
You fell into Finch first up.
Yeah. I when I came back to Australia, I came back because it was my mother's birthday, May the 2nd. I wanted to come back and surprise her, and I was basically going to be here for a couple of weeks, have a break, clear my head, and then go back. And when I went back, because I was going to move in with Bon and Silver, his girlfriend, because Bon said, listen, crazy going back, mate. You don't know what's going to happen here. You should stay in. And I said, I want to go back to see Mum and have birthday and stuff. And so when I was going back, I was going to be moving in with them, because, Bon said, I'm going to be on the road with the band, so hang out. So that was all set up. But I came back and spent a couple of days with Mum. And then on the third day I was back, I got a call from the band's manager, Finch's manager, Brian Todd, who was still a very good friend of mine. He said, listen, we need you down in Tasmania. So I had 2 days off, and then I was back into it again. And then I joined Finch, and we sort of started writing, and then changed the lineup around a bit. A good friend of mine, Graham Kennedy, who grew up with in Melbourne, he joined the band, and another guy, Dave Hines, joined the band, and we started recording. We signed up to CBS in about a month, and then we started recording the first album. Then we got a deal in the States, so we're all off again. We're doing all the same gigs, and it was pretty full on again, you know. So I ended up doing a couple of albums with that band, and yeah. So as far as music goes, yeah, been up until now. You know what I only just talking about gigs before, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty. Well, I'm playing a lot of guitar these days, a lot of acoustic guitar, but I'm getting back playing bass with the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs with my mate Mark Gable.
Actually, I was going to lead up to that, but let's talk about them now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a new band. I finally because I do my acoustic root sing with Dave Tice, great singer. I use all my Gibson J200s, cowboy guitars, and we've just got a new CD out, Brothers in Arms. I know that title's been used before, but it's a song Dave wrote, and it's such a great song, and we use the title track of the album. That's out on iTunes and stuff. But the Dinosaurs is I get back to playing bass. It's Mark Gable from the Choir Boys is singing, playing guitar. Les Gock from Hush is the other guitar player, and Buzz Bidstrup playing drums from the Angels. So yeah, we do a couple of Angel songs, a couple of Choir Boys songs, some AC/DC stuff. Sorry, Les, we don't do any Hush songs. No, out of order. We're not doing no. We're not going to do that. But yeah, so it's a great band. We're going to be doing some recording. We're doing some writing now. So yeah, it's great playing bass again because I love playing bass, man. It's great.
Well, I have played with the Guitar Heroes with both Les and Mark, as we were talking before.
Yeah.
And as soon as Mark comes on stage, there's an electricity.
He's a great frontman, isn't he?
You know, and I'm intrigued by this. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, well, it's great. Frontmen are like that. You know, Mark definitely has a really really strong vibe about him.
Yeah,
he has a you know. He reminds me of a few other people that have that. Tex Perkins is another guy.
Oh, right.
When you see him, you go, I've never worked with him, but when I see him, you go like, even if you're a Martian, right? You come down in your spaceship and you go to a gig, and it's someone like Mark Gable or Tex Perkins on stage. You go, I don't know who that guy is, but he's definitely someone. They have that charisma about them. You know, much as like Bon Scott did. They have that thing, and that's what makes a great. Like a showman. Mark's a showman, you know. A great singer, and he writes a great tune too. Like, you know, those hits he wrote for the Choir Boys have tremendous records.
Yep. Yeah, very much so.
Another Alberts band. They went to Mushroom later on, but yeah.
Yeah, I've always.
They worked with George Young, yeah.
Yeah, I've always, you know, curious about the bands here that did work with Vander and Young, and you know, I always ask people what they were like to work with.
Well, yeah, they had that period there where, you know, you know, when they first come back from England, they did all that great stuff with Stevie, like, you know, a Hard Road with Evie and stuff. Like, that's an amazing record. But then they did the AC/DC stuff. I did a lot of pop stuff with JPY. Yeah. But then there's AC/DC, Choir Boys, Rose Tattoo, Angels. There's that very, very much that Albert's guitar.
And they're all so different.
They're different, but they're great Aussie guitar bands, you know. Like, you know, my two favourite bands, actually, I've actually got three favourites. And, you know, it might sound like a bit of a bullhead to say, but one of them's AC/DC. Yeah. I just love it, and I gravitate to stuff where Bond's singing. And my two favourite AC/DC albums are Highway to Hell and Power Rage, two albums I had nothing to do with. Right. But my other two bands favourite bands are Rose Tattoo, my favourite, and the Choir Boys. And they're the Albert singing, and George is involved with all of them. And you know, I've got a lot of respect for George. George is the most astute guy I've ever met in the business. You know, I learned so much from him. But that Albert's guitar thing, it just talks to me, you know.
What did you learn from George?
How to play bass, for one. He's a knockout. You know, I don't play bass anything like George. George is quite a busy bass player, very much almost like Ronnie Lane from the Faces, or even Paul McCartney. He's very notey. A perfect example is a single, High Voltage. That was recorded before I joined the band. If you listen to bass on that, it's very poppy. It's really bounces around the place. That's how George plays. You know, the way I play is as you probably would know, is very, very straight. which is very unlike how George plays. But I learnt so much from George in the studio about how to nail things down, how to do things, and how to work in with the band. He's amazing in the studio, and a songwriter too. You write a better guitar rock pop song than Friday on My Mind. Are you kidding me? Actually, we're doing that with the Dinosaurs.
Why not?
Hey, it sounds great.
And another frontman that's quite well respected was Swanee. You played with him.
Yeah, we do a lot of work with Swanee. Yeah.
Who were the guitar players in the band when you were with them?
Oh, let me see. There was a few. We used to burn those guitar players up. The one that immediately comes to mind is of course Dennis Wilson. Yeah. But I used to go see Dennis when I was a kid, when he played in Carver Stewart with Bob Daisley. We ended up playing with Ozzy. Great guitar player, man. We had a lineup of Swanee, which we went a little bit left field there for a while, but it was one of, this is no disrespect to Dennis as a guitar player, but we had a lineup of Swanee was possibly one of the greatest lineups I've ever played in, and it was, I had my drummer, a guy called John Layla. I worked in a lot of bands worked in with Swanee with him, with Cheetah, another band Heaven, and then when I worked with Rob Riley in the Beast, JL was the drummer. So, but it was Swanee, JL was on drums, I was playing bass, Stuart Fraser was playing guitar, and Harvey James was playing the other guitar.
Right.
So it was just a two guitars. Swanee usually had a keyboard player. But we just did everything with two guitars. That was back in the times when, like Temporary Heartache and Lady What's Your Name and all that, which are all very, and I was a carpenter, all very heavily keyboard songs. But those guys did everything on guitar. And playing in a band with Stuart Fraser and Harvey James, of course those guys are both, God bless you Harvey, both amazing guitar players. And that was a great band. It was probably my favourite lineup of Swanee. So the guitar players, they were unbelievable guitar players, man.
Yeah, I remember seeing Harvey with Richard Clapton.
Oh, what a gentleman too. Beautiful guitar player. Except he was a Geelong supporter.
Yeah,
that's a bit gay, but with that lineup, we did a whole bunch of gigs with Chisel too, which were a couple of late nights there.
Yeah.
Way too much red cordial.
One thing that I found interesting is the band Heaven you were with, and you did spend a number of years over in America.
Yeah, it wasn't years, it was quite an amount of time, yeah. We were based in LA, and interestingly enough, it was Michael Browning managed the band, who was managing AC/DC.
Oh, okay.
And another coincidence too was when, after Bond died, Alan Fryer, the singer of Heaven, was reported in a lot of the British newspapers as being the guy who was going to be taking over. And I think Alan might have even done some work with George on some of the stuff. So he was tipped as being the guy who was going to take over. So there's a couple of little crossovers there. There's all these little weird coincidences, with even things like with the Let There Be Rock album cover in Australia. The fingers on the album cover is a guy called Chris Turner, and he played in Buffalo with Dave Tice. And if you look over my shoulder, my back fence, that's Chris Turner's place over there.
Yeah.
It's all these weird coincidences keep on interweaving out of the story. But yeah, Heaven was great. We did a lot of good tours over there. We did a tour with Kiss. We did a tour with Black Sabbath. A weird lineup of Black Sabbath had Ian Gillan singing.
Oh yes.
And a guy called, I think his name's Bev Bevan, the drummer from ELO, was playing drums, and it was scary, but the stage setup was Stonehenge, and all the monitors were rocks and all that, and it was a tad weird. And
kind of like Spinal Tap.
This is I don't know. It was. I think this is well before Spinal Tap. It was a bit wacky. I think And they come out in between these rocks and stuff, and there'll be this smoke, and oh, guys, please, knock it over.
Yeah, you just needed the dwarfs.
I watched that movie the first time, Spinal Tap, in Townsville. I was on a tour with a band that will remain nameless because they were watching it with me, and I was dying. I was hemorrhaging laughing, and I said, I don't think that's too funny. We do. What's so funny about that? And you know who you are too.
Yeah, boy. But Kelly told me, I talked to him, you know, I knew him quite well, and he'd tell me about, his experiences with Skid Row and, you know.
Oh, those guys. Motley Crue we did a tour with.
Yeah, he told me that.
And
he said that, you know, Australian bands doing all the live work that you did here just playing in pubs, you'd get over there and the American bands hadn't had that road time.
They were soft.
Yeah.
Live, all those bands were really soft. You know, they didn't hit hard at all. They just didn't have the intensity that Australian bands have. Plus, Motley Crue wore girls' shoes and way too much makeup. Lovely guys, but f***ing back off the makeup. You know, you go out to a bar after a gig and they have makeup on. You go, God, you're going to get us killed, man. But great guys, man. You're great guys to hang out with, and you know, for that sort of American, you know, heavy rock, whatever you want to call what they do, great. You know, and made some great records, man, and just great guys to hang around with. But once you got past the high heels and makeup, we're good.
I'd like to ask you where you were and how you heard about Bon dying and how you felt.
How I felt? Shit ass. Yeah, I was at home. I was I had a place in Randwick. I was living in Randwick at the time, and I was spending most of my afternoons back in those days at home with a book. I consumed books, and I was just at home in the afternoon. And the phone rang, and it was Brian Todd, a guy I worked with, who managed Finch Contraband. And he just said, oh, hi, how you doing, mate? You know, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine, Brian. He said, I'm just around the corner. I've got a bottle of scotch. I'm coming over. And I said, well, he lived on the other side of town, you know. I said, well, what are you talking about? You got a bottle of scotch? Yeah, what are you talking about? He said, well, have you got the TV on or something? Or, right? He said, no. I just remember it. He said, oh, Bond's dead, mate. Hell. You know, and it was just one of those weird moments, you know, and it was one of the things you just can't believe what you're hearing. He said, I'm coming over, and then I don't really have all that much recollection of the time between that and when he arrived at my place. It could have been 5 minutes, it could have been an hour, and he just come with a bowl of scotch and sat down and had a drink. And I remember him saying, in the conversation when he said Bond's dead, I remember him saying something about a car. So in between the time of the phone call and Brian getting in my place, I had it in my head. There was a car accident, and I said, "Well, what happened? What was it a crash or what was it?" He said, "No, they found him in a car," and you know, it's just one of those, you know, one of those things. You know, like everyone. You know, as you get along further in life, everyone has people like family or really close. You lose people along the way, and that was just, you know, it's just one of those moments. It'll stay with you. You know, it's. I used this expression before talking about something, but you know, it was weird when Bon went. You know, because you know it was just the most god-awful shock, but I really couldn't say I was surprised. You know, it was a weird thing about Bond. People always say, you know, if he died tomorrow, man, he's had a, you know, he really enjoyed himself. And people used to say that all the time about him. You know, and maybe, you know, in the fullness of the time, it seems like they used to say it more. You know, but no, it's a you know, just a nasty thing. But taking one step further from that, you know, the way the guys handled the transition and how they moved through that period, and
Well, he was an integral part. Bond was an integral part of their plans.
Yeah, sure, but yeah. Well, at that time, well, I don't think plans were the last thing in the guy's mind.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult for everyone. But what those guys went through at that point, and to navigate their way through the way they did, and to continue on, and make a record like Back in Black, and then go on and how they went through that, man, it doesn't surprise me they did it that way, because they've got the determination. But I got so much respect for the way the guys did that, and I had no thoughts at the time whether the guys would continue or not continue, because once again it just wasn't something that was on my mind. But to go and make that record, and I saw them on the Back in Black tour here in Sydney in 1981. It was Brian's first show in Sydney, and it was odd hearing
someone else.
Yeah, and because I was so used to the songs, but that it was difficult. Odd for me and difficult for me. But the guys were living with that every night, playing those songs every night. The way they handled it, man, I got a lot of respect for that. That was just. I don't think there's been a gutsier transition ever. I'm biased, of course, because I just dig the whole thing. But huge effort, man, huge effort.
Yeah,
You got to respect it.